Welcome back to Once Upon a Snooze Fest. If you're enjoying the show, please follow us so you won't miss an episode. Hi there, I'm Nigel, your host. We're about to set sail on our journey to sleep. Get comfy so you can fall asleep. First, a message from our sponsors. This story is about two best friends and their magical discoveries. This is Young Adventurers. In the small, misty village of Eldenwood, nestled between dense forests and ancient hills, lived a young boy named Philip. He was not an ordinary boy, although he didn't know it yet. With tousled brown hair and eyes that sparkled with curiosity, Philip spent his days exploring the quaint village lanes and dreaming of grand adventures. He was kind-hearted and always had a peculiar sense that he was meant for something extraordinary. Philip's best friend, Fatima, was as vibrant and lively as he was earnest and thoughtful. Fatima had dark, flowing hair and an infectious laughter that seemed to echo through the entire village. She loved stories of old, especially the ones filled with magic and wonder, often weaving fantastic tales that both amused and bewildered Philip. The two were inseparable, whether they were climbing trees, discovering hidden nooks, or simply marveling at the mysterious world around them. They both led simple lives, filled with the modest joys and routines of Eldenwood. Philip helped his family in their small bookshop, where he devoured tales of heroes, mythical creatures, and powerful wizards. Fatima, on the other hand, often assisted her mother, who was the village's wise healer, mixing herbs and potions with a surprising deftness that belied her young age. But there was always an undercurrent of something more, something unspoken that bound them together. Philip often felt a tingling in his fingertips, especially when he was particularly excited or upset, while Fatima sometimes had dreams that seemed too vivid and real to be mere figments of her imagination. Little did they know, these were whispers of their true nature. Unbeknownst to them, the quiet corners of their village hid secrets of ancient magic. The first hints of their remarkable potential would soon emerge and set them on an unimaginable journey. Their lives were on the cusp of transformation, where tales from old scrolls and whispered legends would soon become their own reality. And thus, the story of Philip and Fatima, the young wizard and the emerging witch, was about to begin. The day Philip discovered his magical abilities started like any other. He was a typical 15-year-old, juggling schoolwork, friends, and weekend chores. Yet, there had always been something different about him, an unexplained sense of knowing and a peculiar affinity with the world around him. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and Philip decided to take a walk in the nearby forest. The forest was his sanctuary, a place where he could think and feel at peace. As he strolled through the dense trees, he noticed a shimmering light ahead, unlike anything he had seen before. Curiosity led him closer, and he saw a small, sparkling stone nestled within the moss. Compelled by an inexplicable force, Philip picked up the stone. The moment his fingers touched its smooth surface, a rush of energy surged through him. His vision blurred and he felt a strange sensation, as if the world around him had slowed to a crawl. When his eyesight cleared, he found himself surrounded by a glowing aura, pulsating in sync with his heartbeat. Philip's initial reaction was a mix of awe and fear. He dropped the stone in shock, but the glowing aura remained. Waves of questions crashed through his mind. What was happening to him? Was this real? Overcome by a blend of excitement and nervous dread, he decided to head home. The journey back was a haze of vibrant colours and heightened senses. Everything felt different, as if he could sense the life force in every living thing. Once home, he hurried to his room and locked the door. He needed to understand what was happening. Philip picked up a glass on his desk, and to his astonishment, it floated mid-air. He watched, jaw clenched in concentration as it moved according to his will. Am I dreaming? He thought. Philip tested his newfound power with caution. extending a tentative hand towards a stack of books. With a flick of his wrist, the books arranged themselves into a neat pile. His mind raced with possibilities. The thrill of controlling objects with mere thoughts filled him with a sense of power he'd never known. Over the next few days, Philip devoted every spare moment to his secret. He practiced in solitude, experimenting with his abilities in various ways. He could levitate objects, manipulate elements like fire and water, and even communicate with animals. Each discovery made him more confident, yet more cautious. He knew he had to keep his powers hidden, especially until he fully understood them. One evening, while studying in his room, he felt a strange pull towards his window. Looking outside, he saw Fatima, his closest friend, waving at him. She had come over unannounced, as she often did. Hastily, he concealed any sign of magic before letting her in. "Hey Philip, you look different somehow. Like there's something you're not telling me," she said with a mischievous grin. Philip felt a pang of guilt. He wanted to share his secret with her, but feared what she might think. "Just tired, I guess. School's been crazy," he lied, managing a weak smile. Fatima scrutinized him, but let it go, diving into stories about her day. Yet, as Philip listened, his mind buzzed with the possibilities his magical gift could bring. He knew he had to be careful, not just about what he revealed, but also about how he wielded the power that now pulsed within him. Philip had always been a curious boy, but discovering he was a wizard brought an entirely new dimension to his life. No more were his days filled with only mundane schoolwork and daydreams about dragons and wizards. No, now his world was imbued with the thrill of real, tangible magic. But as exhilarating as it was, the journey was anything but smooth. From the very beginning, Philip struggled to control his powers. Simple spells like lighting a candle often resulted in blasting the wick into cinders instead. Even more troubling were the moments when his magic would surge uncontrollably, triggered by his emotions. The more anxious he became about mastering his newfound gifts, the harder it was to suppress them. One sunny afternoon, Philip tried to practice levitation in his backyard, a remote space he hoped was free from prying eyes. He focused intently on a small rock, whispering the incantation he had memorized from an old, dusty book he found in his attic. His hand outstretched, he could almost feel the energy pulse from his fingers, reaching out to envelop the rock. For a brief, glorious moment, the stone trembled and lifted a few inches off the ground. But then it happened. His excitement swelled, and so did the magic within him. The rock shot skyward like a rocket, breaking through branches before it disappeared from view. Terrified that someone might have seen, Philip quickly retreated to his room. But the most unsettling mishap occurred at school. Philip was in history class, absent-mindedly doodling patterns in his notebook as his teacher droned on about ancient civilizations. Unbeknownst to him, the rhythm of his pencil strokes began to synchronize with quiet, invisible waves of magic. Suddenly, maps on the walls started to flutter, and the room grew colder. His teacher, a stern woman named Mrs. Thornton, paused mid-sentence, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the room. Philip's heart raced as he noticed the changes around him. Desperate to contain whatever was happening, he clenched his fists under his desk, willing the magic to stop. Instead, the chalk on the board began to scribble furiously, writing random words that made no sense. Students gasped and giggled, not sure whether to be scared or astonished. Mrs. Thornton's steely gaze finally landed on Philip, her eyebrows knitting together in suspicion. "Philip," she said, her voice like a whip crack, "do you have something you'd like to share with the class?" Philip swallowed hard, shaking his head. "No, Mrs. Thornton," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady, but his insides felt like they were swimming in a stormy sea. The incident earned him a week's detention and a reputation as the class weirdo. Philip felt isolated, his magical abilities marking him as different in a world that valued normalcy. He couldn't shake the fear that his secret would be discovered, and worse yet, that he might hurt someone unintentionally. Navigating daily life became a minefield. Simple activities turned into potential catastrophes. Panic set in one evening when he tried to help his mother with dinner. Aiming to use a freezing spell to cool a hot pot quickly, he ended up encasing the entire kitchen counter in a thick layer of ice. His mother stared at the phenomenon, mouth agape, while Philip stammered through an explanation about leaving a window open during an unexpected cold snap. She didn't believe him, but she couldn't fathom an alternate explanation, so she let it slide, a wary tension filling the room. Each failure gnawed at Philip's confidence. It felt like his magic was an untamed beast, wild and unpredictable. He longed for guidance, but feared even his closest friend, Fatima, wouldn't understand. Yet, despite all these struggles, Philip couldn't bring himself to wish his magic away. It was a part of him now, an enigma he was determined to master, no matter what it took. And somewhere deep inside, he held on to the hope that one day he wouldn't have to face it alone. Little did he know, help was closer than he realized. Philip sat on the edge of the forest, staring at his hands, which had just glowed with an uncontrollable surge of magic. His mind was a storm of confusion and fear. How was he supposed to manage these powers when he had no idea where they even came from? The sound of rustling leaves interrupted his thoughts, and he looked up to see Fatima approaching, her face filled with concern. "Philip, are you all right?" Fatima asked, sliding down beside him. The question lingered in the air. Could he even begin to explain what he was feeling? Sighing, Philip opted for honesty. "I don't know what's happening to me, Fatima. One minute I'm normal and the next, my hands are glowing and everything around me is changing." Fatima listened intently, her eyes widening with every word. She reached out and grabbed his hands, her touch grounding him. "Whatever this is, Philip, we'll figure it out together, I promise." From that moment on, Fatima became Philip's rock. She spent countless hours reading ancient texts and folklore in an effort to understand his magical abilities. Whenever Philip felt overwhelmed, Fatima was there to calm him down, never letting him lose hope. One evening, as Philip struggled to control a simple levitation spell, Fatima stood by, offering him pointers she had learned from the books. "Try to focus on one object at a time. Clear your mind and concentrate," she urged gently. It was such a small suggestion, yet it made all the difference. Slowly but surely, Philip began to get a handle on his powers. Fatima's encouragement was unwavering, and her curiosity about the magical world grew with each passing day. She would often ask Philip to demonstrate new spells, her eyes sparkling with excitement and wonder. Despite the occasional mishap, like the time Philip accidentally turned the school's chemistry lab into a greenhouse, Fatima remained steadfast. She even managed to find humor in the chaos, making Philip laugh when he was on the verge of despair. Her support was an anchor that kept him from drifting too far into the unknown. Their friendship deepened, bound by the secrets they shared and the mysteries they sought to unravel. Fatima's fascination with magic was infectious, and soon she was experimenting alongside Philip, attempting to understand the intricate web of spells and enchantments. One afternoon, as they sat beneath an old oak tree with books sprawled around them, Fatima turned to Philip. "Do you ever wonder if there's more to this? More to us?" Her question hung in the air, laden with possibilities. Philip nodded, his confidence bolstered by her words. "Every day, Fatima, and maybe, just maybe, we'll find the answers together." Fatima stood in the meadow where she and Philip often met to practice his newly discovered magical abilities. The sun hung low, casting golden rays through the tall grass, making the scene almost surreal. Today felt different. She couldn't shake off the tingling sensation running up her arms, a sensation she had occasionally felt but dismissed as mere excitement or nerves. Philip was practicing levitating small rocks, his brow furrowed in concentration. Fatima watched him with mixed emotions. Pride for her friend, a tinge of envy, but mostly curiosity. She had always felt there was something special within her too, a whisper of power that she couldn't fully understand. "Hey, Philip," she called, breaking his concentration. A pebble dropped from its hovering position to the ground with a thud. "Yeah, Fatima?" Philip's voice was filled with the usual warmth, though an undertone of fatigue hinted at his diligent practices. "I've been feeling strange lately. It's like there's energy inside me, trying to get out. Am I just imagining things?" Philip walked over, wiping sweat from his brow. "Maybe you're not imagining anything at all. Why don't we try to see if you can tap into it?" Fatima hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but how?" Philip offered his hands, palms up. "Place your hands on mine and close your eyes." The instant their hands touched, Fatima felt a rush of warmth, like a spark igniting in her core. She shut her eyes and soon, the meadow around her faded. She was in a world of darkness, but she could feel energy swirling around her, eager to be released. "Focus on that feeling," Philip's voice echoed in the void. "Feel it flow, like a river inside you." Taking a deep breath, she imagined the energy surging through her veins, moving towards her fingertips. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the meadow, lifting her hair and causing the grass to ripple like waves. Fatima gasped and pulled her hands back. The wind ceased abruptly. "Did you just do that?" Philip's eyes were wide with astonishment and excitement. "I think I did," Fatima replied, equally stunned. "But how? Your powers are awakening. Remember what I went through? This is your moment, Fatima." For the next few hours, Philip guided her through basic exercises, helping her channel her newfound abilities. At first, it was difficult. A sudden burst of power sent leaves spiraling into the air, causing Philip to duck for cover. But with time, control began to blend with the raw potential. "Try lifting that rock," Philip suggested, pointing to a smooth stone near her feet. Fatima focused, extending her hand towards the object. She could feel the now familiar warmth gathering in her palm. The rock shuddered, then slowly rose into the air, hovering steadily a few feet above the ground. "I did it!" Fatima burst out in joy, a wide grin spreading across her face. "That's amazing!" Philip cheered. "You've always been special. I knew it. We're going to figure this out together." Fatima's mind buzzed with possibilities. For so long, she'd hidden her suspicions, doubted her instincts. But now, standing in the meadow with her best friend beside her, she felt more alive than ever. Over the following days, Philip continued to assist Fatima in harnessing her gifts. He taught her calming techniques, ways to focus her energy, and even shared his own struggles, making the bond between them even stronger. "Thanks for believing in me, Philip," she said one evening as they watched the sunset, the sky painted in hues of pink and orange. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "We're in this together, Fatima," he replied, squeezing her shoulder reassuringly. "Your magic is a part of you, and now we'll explore it, learn from it, and grow stronger because of it." With newfound purpose, Fatima stared at the horizon, ready to embrace the journey ahead. Together, they would uncover the mysteries of their powers and face whatever challenges lay in their path, hand in hand. Philip and Fatima stood at the edge of the enchanted forest, a place whispered about in town for its secrets and dangers. The trees were tall and twisted, their leaves shimmering with an otherworldly light. Both young adventurers felt a mix of excitement and apprehension at what lay ahead. "Are you ready?" Philip asked, his wand held tightly in his hand. His fingers were still new to the feel of it, but he had discovered that the wand seemed to amplify his natural abilities, helping him focus his spells. "Absolutely," Fatima replied, her eyes gleaming with determination. She had spent days reading and practicing incantations. Though her powers had only recently awakened, she felt an innate connection to the magic coursing through her veins. Clutching a small sapphire pendant that seemed to intensify her focus, Fatima took a deep breath. "Let's see what we can do together." The duo ventured deeper into the forest, every step taking them further into the unknown. Birds with feathers of gold and silver sang melodies that seemed to enchant the very air. Unfamiliar, yet alluring scents filled the breeze, and the rustling leaves whispered secrets only the forest understood. After walking for what felt like hours, they stumbled upon an ancient stone archway, overgrown with vines and glowing faintly in the dim light of the forest. An inscription in an archaic language spiraled around the arch. Philip raised his wand, channeling a spell of translation. The letters shimmered and rearranged, revealing a riddle only the brave dare to uncover, to seek the heart and reveal the lover. Magic's truth lies deep within. A test of courage will begin. Fatima pondered the riddle for a moment. Heart, lover. It's about intention and trust, I think, she murmured. Philip nodded. And magic itself, let's give it a go. I'll cast an illumination spell to light our way. He channeled his willpower through his wand, and a soft, golden glow appeared, illuminating the dark passageway beyond the arch. As they stepped through, the temperature dropped, and the air thickened with latent magic. Shadows danced along the walls, and they suddenly found themselves inside a vast labyrinthine cavern. Glowing crystals jutted from the walls, casting eerie reflections. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into the form of a giant serpent made of pure darkness. The creature hissed, its glowing eyes fixed on them. "Philip, to the left!" Fatima shouted, raising her hands. Drawing on her newfound powers, she summoned a shield of pulsating energy, just in time to deflect a strike from the serpent. Philip sprinted to the left, gathering his courage. He launched an offensive spell, but the serpent dodged, retaliating with astonishing speed. For a moment, chaos reigned, spells and strikes being exchanged in a blur. But they were starting to understand the rhythm of magic, the ebb and flow of power and intent. Fatima focused, her pendant glowing as she launched a spell designed to bind the serpent's movements. Philip seized the opportunity, gathering his strength for a powerful blast of pure light. "Now!" shouted Fatima. Her binding spell tightened around the creature, its movements slowing. Philip unleashed his spell. The cavern flooded with brilliant light. The serpent screeched and dissolved into tendrils of black smoke, vanishing completely. Breathless but triumphant, Philip and Fatima exchanged victorious smiles. "We did it," Philip said, his voice tinged with relief and joy. "Teamwork," Fatima replied, high-fiving her friend. She looked around the cavern, her eyes landing on a pedestal in the center. On it rested an ancient, ornate book, bound in enchanted leather. The inscription on its cover read, "The Grimoire of Thresholds." "This must be what the riddle was directing us to," she said, picking up the book. As she opened it, magical scripts began to float off the pages and hover in the air around them. The grimoire contained not only spells and incantations, but also stories of past wizards and witches, their triumphs and tribulations. Together, they realized that their journey was only beginning. They had so much left to learn and explore, and they would do it together. Hand in hand, with the grimoire safely in their possession, they walked back through the forest, their hearts light with the promise of future adventures and the newfound strength of their magical bond. As the sun set over the small town of Ravenswood, casting a golden hue over its rooftops, Philip and Fatima stood atop the highest hill, gazing into the horizon. Reflecting on their journey, they couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed since the day they discovered their magical gifts. Philip had grown from an unsure boy, fumbling with his newfound powers, into a confident young wizard, whose spells were the talk of the town. His initial struggles had taught him patience, resilience, and the importance of practice. He learned to control his magic with precision, turning what once felt like a wild, untamed force into an extension of his will. Fatima, too, had transformed. Her transition from an intrigued companion into a powerful witch was nothing short of astonishing. Her natural curiosity had driven her to explore the depths of her abilities. She had learned to wield her gifts with grace and strength, finding a sense of purpose she never knew she had. Their relationship, already strong, had been fortified through their shared experiences. They had faced challenges, both external and internal, and had come out stronger on the other side. Trust and mutual respect deepened their bond, making them not just friends, but partners in magic. Every adventure had pushed them to rely on each other, to lift one another up, and to celebrate each other's victories. As they stood there, the wind carrying whispers of future quests, they knew their journey had only just begun. The world was vast, teeming with mysteries and challenges that awaited their discovery. They felt an exhilaration at the prospect of what lay ahead, confident that together they could face anything. Philip and Fatima turned to each other, sharing a determined nod. Their eyes sparkled with the promise of tomorrow's adventures. The bond they had forged in the crucible of magic was unbreakable, and they welcomed the unknown with open hearts and ready wands, prepared to write the next chapters of their magical story together.